I used to recommend buying from CarMax, but after recently helping my father-in-law purchase his new truck and dealing with the dumpster fire that's turned into and finally settling out and collecting the last reimbursement checks for my wife's vehicle, I've got to tell you, things have changed. If you're considering buying a car from CarMax, you need to hear this. My name is Zach. I am an ASE Master Automotive Mechanic, and as you can see, a former CarMax employee. They actually keep trying to take this from me. We're not letting them have it. Today I'm going to break down my two most recent auto purchasing experiences with CarMax and why they really didn't meet expectations. I'm also going to let you in on a few insider secrets you can use to your advantage if you are purchasing a CarMax car to get what you want. My most recent purchase from CarMax was actually my father-in-law. He had seen a video that I made recently talking about all of the positive things that CarMax does in their buying experience. He had gained some trust from that video, decided now's the time to pull the trigger, and where does he go? CarMax, because, well, I put my name on it and I recommended it, so lucky me. He goes to CarMax, picks out a 2019 Chevy Colorado ZR2. He had that truck shipped in from out of state because it was a free transfer, and was super pumped about this thing. Was calling them every other day. When's the truck gonna be in? Is it ready? I'm ready to look at it. I'm so excited. Well, that excitement quickly turned into, well, hesitation, fear, regret, in that order. So we went to look at this truck. The truck did have some damage on the roof. Nothing too significant that I personally probably couldn't PDR and get out. Not that big of a deal. As we're looking the truck over, the truck really hadn't been cleaned up too well. I mean, it had a few bullet casings in the bed, I think 45 ACP. Nothing that was a deal breaker, right? Just dirty, needs to be cleaned up, detailed. They'll take care of that. From there, I did notice a few things with the vehicle. We had a nail in the front tire that was in the outer sidewall, was leaking a little bit of air. It did have a tire light on. Let the salesman know. He said, great, we'll take care of that, no problem. I'll tell you about the policy here in a second and how that comes into play. The other one that we did not find out until after we got literally all the way to the signing table and he had wired his down payment for the truck was the fact that it only came with one key that was a physical key blade on a truck that was advertised with keyless entry and remote start. Whenever we got to CarMax, my father-in-law at this point is actually leaning on me because I'm kind of the expert on CarMax apparently, and asking me, hey, how does the process work? What do we do? I'm like, great, we walk in here, we check in, and we let them know we're here for our appointment. We were about 10 minutes early. I expected we had to probably wait. That 10 minutes early went all the way up to our appointment time, plus another 45 minutes, and then we kept having to come inside, and we eventually got re-assigned to somebody else for sales. Not really off to a great start, you know? Not really what I wanted to portray to my father-in-law, who's about to spend a lot of money to him on a brand new truck. Well, used, truck, whatever. We finally get a salesperson, no clue what they're talking about. Apparently his actual truck isn't ready yet, so we end up driving a different truck that's very similar that actually had a mechanical issue on the test drive. So they bring that truck back, and then they finally rush through, get his truck done so we can test drive his truck. Upon looking at his truck, we notice the tire issue, which I bring up to the salesman and I say, hey, I know CarMax has a policy where if it's a 2/32 tread depth variation on the same axle, you replace both tires because you have a different rollout, tire to tire, that could burn up any locking or limited slip differential on there. It's just mechanically not good. That's policy there. And then I said, well, the truck is 4-wheel drive, so that means we replace all 4, right? And he said, yep. So they agreed to put 4 tires on the truck, take care of the nail issue. I was pretty stoked, right? 4 brand new tires, that sounds like a good deal to me. Once we start to get through the sales process a little bit further, we're trying to figure out how he can take this truck home today. For whatever reason, they had to do a express delivery, which is some COVID era policy or bullshit they came up with, where instead of the salesman saying, hey, here's your truck, it's on the drive, and handing you the keys and doing the handoff, you leave, come back later, scan a QR code, do a bunch of stuff on your cell phone, then you pick the truck up outside, like the keys are in it. And this is the fun part. So they hand him the key, right? Just like this. So I said, we don't get remotes. No, it's just got the physical key blade. That's it. And there was one, not even 2, just one freaking key blade. And I'm like, well, that sucks. He's gonna have to poverty lock this thing and isn't going to be able to use the remote start function or anything that he really wanted out of it, right? All the features that we like to enjoy. So I ask and say, hey, can I see those Subaru keys? I got to get one off. They hand me the Subaru keys, and I actually popped the key blades out of the remotes, put the remotes in my hand, handed them back the key blades with 2 little key blades, just like that. They didn't really seem to like that. My father-in-law got a little upset, but I was like, we're not getting remotes on a truck that we are literally paying for remote start, keyless entry. And we aren't getting those features on a truck we're buying. He went and talked to the sales manager. They agreed to put keys on the truck. So we got that in writing, and that got worked out. So I handed them the actual key fobs for his trade-in Subaru back. This is where the story really starts to fall apart. He ends up finding alternative financing for the truck instead of CarMax Auto Finance, who is usually who I go through just because of convenience, and I get really good rates because I've done a lot of vehicles through them, so they like me. Now, he finds better financing. They say the process is easy, but the process is not easy if the people in their business offices do not check their emails or read past page 1 whenever there's other documentations from other banks. He ended up going back to CarMax 4 times over the next week to try to get this financing squared away, and all they ever said was, oh, I didn't see that in the email. Not a, I'm sorry, not a, hey, thanks for driving back down here. Nothing. Kind of crappy. When it comes to the tires on this truck, he called into the service department and said, hey, I'm ready to schedule this appointment for my tires, and they ended up telling him, well, that's great, we don't have an appointment for 3 to 4 weeks. He asked if he could go to discount. They said no, so he's just driving around a truck that they then told him I wouldn't recommend driving on the highway or above 60 miles an hour, and it's got a nail in the sidewall and the tires leak air. Kind of a problem, but okay. And then they tell him we can't also put the same tires that are on this truck back on it. They want to downgrade to Ironman, Strongman, whatever, tires, just absolute bottom of the barrel, Econo box junk. And it's a Colorado ZR2, so you know how the Ford Raptor comes with off-road tires? That's like saying instead of the off-road tires on your Raptor, we're just gonna put F-150, hyper mileage tires on it, right? Base model work truck stuff. So I ask politely if they can look up what the Colorado ZR2 came with. They end up looking it up and say, all right, well, let me see what I can do. They apparently have some conversations with parts and upper management, and then they call us back and say, we're gonna do you a favor, we're gonna put the right tires on it. We went above and beyond, and y'all should be happy. Yeah, I'm happy that you did your job. Cool, thanks. Now, this is where it starts to get worse. He's ready to get these tires in. They say they're gonna get them on order. We go 4.5 weeks with hearing nothing. Finally check back in and find out that the tires have showed up, and now he got an appointment in 3 weeks from then. So we're going on 7 weeks of not being able to drive this truck on the highway and having to put air in the tire, when he could have literally just gone to Discount Tire, probably gotten it done same day, and they just reimburse. Just because they want to micromanage and have it go through their shop, because who knows? Policy? But the challenge here is now that the 7-week period has expired, he's outside of his return window. He can't do anything. My other recent vehicle purchase was a Volkswagen Atlas R-Spec, loaded out, beautiful car, silver on silver, brown interior, captain's chairs, just, I love this thing, right? Just ultimate dad car. So I was super pumped about getting this, looked for a while, found one 2 years old, 20,000 miles, great price on it. Had been sitting on the lot for a minute in Texas, so we had it transported up to Colorado. They offered free transport. We took it. So this car comes in, go to look at it, and I'm buying this car for my wife, so it was all she could think about, right? All she could talk about for about 2 weeks. So we get there, notice a few things on the car, and me, having worked there, I know how to leverage their policy. There was a pretty decent sized scratch in the door, about 15, 16 inches. Looked like somebody walked by it with keys on their belt. Not a big deal, but it was kind of through the clear coat. The other thing I noticed was on the rear bumper, it had some blue rubbed off on it on a silver car, so it looked like transport damage. Sometimes the cars will just rub bumpers, right? Touch tips, tip to butt. Other than that, the car was fairly clean. We noticed the underneath of this car, being in West Texas, was super dusty and dirty, nothing that I couldn't take care of. We noticed a few other little rock chips. The windshield had a star in the glass that was starting to crack. A piece of interior trim was missing, and the passenger side window tint, it looked like a dog had gone through it and clawed it. So nothing too crazy, but these were things that whenever the salesperson came out, I asked, can we get addressed? They really didn't want to do anything, which we're buying a pretty pricey car here, at least in my money. Like, that's expensive to me. So start talking to them. I say, look, I know it's policy to fix this size of scratch. It's greater than 12 inches. Manager comes out, says, yep. And they literally come out and they measure this. Like, that's how petty this experience started to become at that point. CarMax actually ended up agreeing to fix a lot of these items on the car, which I was super happy about, but it did take some negotiating, meaning I literally said, if you don't fix this, I'm walking, and by the way, this car sat on the lot in West Texas for over 90 fucking days. So good luck, it's yours now, here stuck on your lot. I'm gonna leave and go somewhere else. We ended up getting the paintwork repaired on the car, and they did it in-house because they have their own body shop on site. Very convenient, but the only inconvenient part about that was apparently all of their loaner cars were in use. So I had to Uber over to Enterprise, pick up a car, which then ended up leaking all over my garage. So that was a disaster with Enterprise, separate of CarMax. For whatever reason, I've had really bad luck with cars lately. So paintwork, probably a 9.8, 9.9 out of 10. I mean, looks fantastic. Most people would never ever know, including CarMax themselves. And I'm only able to spot it because I've been around auctions and used car dealers pretty much my entire life. So I'm very good at spotting paintwork. When it comes to the windshield portion of our repair process, it could have been its own fiasco. Now, weirdly enough, it seemed like fate, but I was able to get this solved. Long story short, I took the car to Safelite, that's who CarMax sublets their windshield and auto glass to. Take the car in, drop it off, take my wife out to lunch, and I end up getting a call. And they say, hey, we got the glass in, everything went fine, but we've got all these lights on the dash, all these different communication error codes and low voltage and signal lost. And keep in mind, if I haven't shared this with you, I used to work for the company who developed all of the aftermarket scan tools that Safelite now uses to calibrate OEM modules and advanced driver assist systems. I was in that space for 4 or 5 years. I'm very knowledgeable on it. I also used to work for Volkswagen Audi. They tell me that I need to call CarMax, ask for a tow truck to be sent out, have it brought back to the dealership, and they need to diagnose it and fix it because something is majorly wrong and this car is super unsafe to drive. Now, knowing what I know, I asked them if they unplugged the battery during this repair. They said yes. And I said, great, clear the codes. Do a key cycle. They do that while I'm on the phone, and all the codes are gone, and it's totally fine. All the codes that happened were because they unplugged the battery. But it could have turned into a huge situation with this vendor who is supposed to be educated. I mean, it's Safelite, and I have to tell them what to do in this situation, and they're dealing with advanced driver assist and safety features on cars all day long. So it makes me wonder how many of those they've sent out on the road or had people take back to dealerships because of their own ignorance, because literally they told me that. And if I didn't know what I know and just happened to have that weird, ironic background of working literally to develop the tools that Safelite uses, well, I'd be screwed. My car would have gone back to CarMax. I would have had to pay a diag bill. I would have had to take it to Volkswagen. Now that you're up to speed on what exactly happened in both of these purchasing experiences, the one thing that these cars both have in common, other than the fact that the experience really just sucked overall and took way longer and was really inconvenient and really put a bad taste and some distrust in my mouth for CarMax, is the fact that both of them happened because of a trade-in. Now, when a trade-in occurs, we traded in a previous SUV, an Acura, and we traded in a Subaru. Now, on both of these cars, we did an online estimate, filled it out, where you put excellent condition, the car's perfect, here's the mileage, right? Both cars were not perfect, but whenever you do that, they give you the higher number, and then you walk in, and as you're looking at your car, you say, oh yeah, I've also got an appraisal here or a trade-in, and you say, here's what they offered online, even though it might not actually be that condition, and you say, if I can get that number, I'm probably going to end up doing a deal today. they're going to give you that number. They're going to work as hard as they can to give you that number, and they did it both times. I cannot believe what we ended up getting for both of these cars and knowing what condition that they were in, what they'd been through. I mean, I wouldn't have paid that for those cars. And if somebody on my lot had bought those cars, I would have really ripped them a new orifice. I believe that we're seeing high appraisal values for two reasons. One, they want to hoard and get as much inventory as they possibly can, especially with all the uncertainty surrounding the used and new car markets, tariffs, all that jazz. And then the second one being, these appraisers, in all honesty, have about as much automotive experience as the person who stands in the Chick-fil-A line, takes your order, inputs your vehicle make and model so you can get your nuggies and waffle fries at the next window. Overall, it just feels to me like CarMax is really pushing quantity over quality these days. And I think part of that has to do with them shifting to this full flow model, meaning if something needs to be done on a car, it goes to one person who has that experience. Then if something else escalates, it goes to another person. And it literally flows through like a qualification assembly line, which is usually how they stack the techs in their shop. So the car doesn't stay with one person who finishes it from A all the way to Z. It instead goes A to B to C to D, and it just goes person to person, and there's never really one person who stays with the car and makes sure that every single thing gets done. It's just a lot of individual responsibilities in the reconditioning process, and I honestly think that that's starting to become their downfall when it comes to quality. So the question still remains, would I buy another car from CarMax? I don't know. I used to have a really confident yes here. But these days, unless it was the right car at the right price with nothing wrong, and I had an independent inspection done on the lot, knew everything about the car, and it was a great deal, that would probably be the only thing that convinced me that it was worth it. What CarMax used to make up for in convenience and ease and speed in the buying process, with their whole no haggle price that yes, it's a little bit higher because of all this extra convenience, I don't see the value these days. It's just not there anymore. Everything else that they used to provide, all the convenience, the ease, the speed, that's no longer there. I mean, I would have spent less time on these last two vehicle purchases if I'd just gone to a normal dealership, because they wouldn't have had the bureaucratic corporate red tape where it has to go to different sublets and all this other stuff, and we got to schedule you in, and oh, we can't do the tires because they're too expensive. A dealership is just going to take care of that. Most are. I've worked on that side of the industry too. CarMax, on the other hand, I got to say, they're slipping, and I can really see now, clearly, why Carvana is kind of coming up, gaining ground. One other factor here that could be contributing is all of the people that Carvana has actually poached from CarMax. I mean, upper level management, appraisers, technicians, it's a lot of people, and Carvana basically stole the model. I mean, it's weird that a lot of people are so willing to jump ship from a company, which, speaking of ship, they also had a commercial that was Ship Max, where they're like, we'll ship your ship. We're in the Matrix. None of this is real. You know what would be really entertaining? If I could go into a CarMax wearing my name tag and just see how long I go unnoticed. Like, see if I could go into like an employee meeting, hang out in the break room, just completely go underneath the radar, wear tan shorts, do a dark blue polo shirt, and just try to fly underneath the radar and see how long it would take for somebody to notice I don't actually still work there. Tell you what, 100,000 likes on this video, I'll do it. Don't press the like button. I don't want to do this. This is probably a really bad idea. I would love to hear your opinion on CarMax down below in the comments section. Or if you just want to say hi, that's all right too. Can't wait to talk to you. As always, thank y'all so much for your time. I greatly appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video.